Before I start this video, I want to do a shameless plug to say that I am very close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you enjoy the video, please hit that sub button because it'll help me a lot. Also, Blizzard made it so that you can now buy any ruin from the Azeroth Commerce Authority by only being friendly. So basically fuck me for grinding to honored, but if you didn't do that yet, hopefully you didn't, you can also just be friendly and go get your ruin. So go ahead and go do that if you haven't already. But now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the video. Rogue tanking is actually quite good and even is doable in the raid. I actually tanked it and you could probably watch that in my previous video if you haven't already. But in this video, in the background, I'm going to have me tanking SFK to show you how it performs as I yap on to talk about rogue tanking. To focus on rogue tanking though, it's actually not the red-headed stepchild of the tank specs as you might believe, because you have in general around 40 to 50% avoidance at level 25, which is really good because it allows you basically to avoid all physical damage half the time. And if you do manage to take any damage, it is reduced by 20%, not counting armor, just from your tank ruin. So it's actually quite durable as well. It also has very high damage, which allows you to keep up with a lot of DPS for the raid, which allows you to push a fight like Kelris, that is a DPS race, and I'm sure it's going to be very good in the future as we get more raid gear. But the main thing that it lacks, as you can assume, is that we have no AoE threat. So that means that we're going to have to be tab targeting a bunch, and I'll go into later how you're meant to pick up AoE threat, but it's actually quite challenging. And if you are doing the raid and you have like a paladin or a druid tank that can pick up multiple adds a lot easier than you, even a warrior tank can with a thunderclap rune, I would have them be on the mob duty and you can be the main tank for the boss, because what you really excel at as a rogue is dealing with one boss or one mob and just being in a movable wall, kind of like a fury warrior, where you're just doing a lot of damage and you're doing a lot of threat, and your raid can just do a lot of damage without having to worry about pulling threat off. But let's actually talk about the builds, right? So we're going to be talking about the talents first, and there's in general only one build you can do at this level, and that is going to be what I'm showing here. As you can see here, we're going to have the improved Sinister Strike because it works with obviously being able to build up combo points better for your blade dance and everything. And then the next 3 points are going to be in lightning reflexes for more dodge and to be tanky. The next 5 are going to be in deflection, which are going to allow you to have a higher parry chance and to get repost, which is going to be quite important for dealing with AoE threat, and I'll talk about that later. And then lastly, you're going to put your points in precision, because that 5% hit will mean that you're not missing any of your attacks and you're not going to have to worry about missing and losing threat. In terms of the ruins, in general, there's only going to be one fluctuation. The main two that you're going to want are obviously Just a Flesh Wound, which is your main tank ruin, and then Blade Dance, which is going to be how you have the 20% physical damage reduction from this rune, from the tank rune, and also gives you a lot of parry. Now, the ruin on the hands is the only thing that might fluctuate. If you're doing the raid, I recommend that you actually use main Gosh, I don't even know how to say that.
In English, it is pronounced as gauche, gauche, gauche.
But if you aren't using that, then you should go ahead and grab Saber Slash, like if you're doing a dungeon. Instead, to keep up threat and to keep up damage in the pace of the dungeon, you want to use Saber Slash to bulldoze a dungeon. But outside of that, those are going to be what the runes you're going to use are, and also what talents you're going to use. I will say a small caveat, I actually have tanked, not because I wanted to, but because I accidentally messed it up. I have tanked in the main DPS talent build, which is going to be what I'm doing here: 5 in Malice, 3 in Improved Slice and Dice, 2 in Murder, 3 in Ruthlessness, and finally 1 in Relentless Strike. In this build, I actually have tanked the raid in, and it's actually not as durable as you can imagine, but what it does allow you to do is keep up Slice and Dice more often and improve your damage, obviously. So if you're not really worried, or you have a lot of raid gear, and because of that you're not worried about taking a lot of damage, then don't be afraid to actually run the normal DPS build. But the main bad thing about it is, one, you're not as tanky, and 2, you don't have repost, which allows you to tap target and keep threat on more mobs than the boss. So in general, I wouldn't do the DPS build if you can help it. Instead, I would do what I've already stated. But let's now talk about the gear, and that is going to be what I have showing on the screen here. Now there's a few fluctuations as well. There's the tank helmet, which isn't the Twilight Slayer cowl. I prefer to have the damage, and these the Twilight Slayer set is actually quite strong. So even if you're not a DPS, I do think you should go for this. Having an extra hit, more attack power, and obviously all the other stats are going to be extremely important. So that is what I would prioritize. You also want to get the glowing fetish amulet. It has probably the highest stamina of all the necks you can get. So hopefully you can get that, because if you're a warrior, you probably want the DPS neck. So usually, unless you're competing with another tank, you can probably get the glowing fetish amulet. The Sentinel Pauldrons are going to be the best shoulders you can get at this point, so you're going to want to get those. The Sergeant Major's cape from, I believe you get rank 3 in PvP, is going to be the best cape you can get in the game. And you also want to put a +1 agility on that. For the chest, also you're going to want +1 to all stats. And to talk about the bracers, you're going to want the Bindings of Serikis for the tankiness from having more armor, and then you want to put a +3 enchant to stamina on that. The Naga battle gauntlets are going to be great for tanking as well. Same reason you want the wrist, where it has a very high armor for leather and it's pretty tanky. And you want to throw a +24 armor onto that. For weapons, you're going to want the same weapons you want as a DPS, because you're basically a glorified DPS at this point, which is to have the honed Darkwater Talwer, if that's how you pronounce it, and the Chip Bite of Serikis with the 2 damage on your main hand, and then you're going to want, well, 2 damage on both of them actually. You're going to want the agility gun, because it gives you dodge and damage, which is very important, and the defense is actually not that good for us. We don't really need defense. The Cord of Aquanus, pretty self-explanatory, high agility, and very good stat stick. Leggings of the Fang are what I'm going to go for. If you have a lot of money, you can go for the Troll's Bane leggings, but if you're a normal person, you're going to want to get Leggings of the Fang. The Twilight Slayer's foot pads, and on those you're going to want to put the 24 armor on the pants and +1 agility to your boots. For the rings, you can see here, Protector's Band, Seal of Rin. Protector's Band you get from the Ashenvale rep. And for the trinkets, you're going to want to get the Avenger's Void Pearl from the final boss of BFD, and then the Rune of Duty, which you also get from the AV rep. And that's going to be the main setup you're going to want as a rogue tank. Now let's actually talk about the rotation, which is mainly going to be about upkeeping Blade Dance as much as you can, because that is what's going to make you tanky as a rogue. And then outside of that, you're going to want to use Repost as extra damage and threat on bosses, and occasionally use Slice and Dice whenever you have a 5 combo point Blade Dance out already and you have extra energy and combo points to actually put out Slice and Dice. So what your rotation might actually look like when you engage a boss is you're going to want to engage with main gauche, then do a 2 combo point Blade Dance. You might be able to stretch it out into a 3-point Blade Dance depending on the boss you're fighting and how much damage you're going to take. And at this point, you're going to want to build up 5 combo points and filling in main gauche and Repost whenever you can to get a full 5 combo point Blade Dance, which then gives you time to build up a 5 combo point Slice and Dice, and then you could rotate getting a 5-point Blade Dance and then a 5-point Slice and Dice throughout the fight. In AoE is kind of where it gets complicated, but the general idea is that you're going to want to use Sinister Strike and a 1 combo point Blade Dance on the initial target. And then you're going to want to tap target to another mob, use a Sinister Strike into a 1-point Slice and Dice, and then tap target over to a third target, and then use Repost, and then do that on repeat until you've gathered up all the mobs, you have aggro, and then kill everything. And a quick tip for you guys when you're taking as a rogue is that you're going to want to unbind Repost from a macro with Sinister Strike if you're used to that. And then you're going to want to bind it to another key and then manually use it as you tab target, because like I said before, you're going to use it to get AoE threat on mobs. And the reason for that is it's a very high damage, high threat, and a very low energy cal stability, which is going to make it great for tab target threat. But guys, with all that information out of the way, that is going to conclude this video. I hope it helped you a lot, and remember to like, subscribe. I'm really close to 1K views, so please go ahead and subscribe if you learned something here. But with that, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching.